People say that writing horror is really similar to writing comedy, but that clearly is not the case because Stephen King, the king of horror, is not capable of writing a good joke to save his life. For those who don't know, Stephen King is currently under fire for a very controversial joke he told on Threads, and honestly, at first glance, this really looks like one of those really cringy SNL jokes where they try to push a political bit and it just does not land at all. I'm not saying SNL is always bad, but sometimes those political bits are just so forced it's just not funny, and this was definitely the case with Stephen King's joke, and frankly, I think it's partially my fault. I promised you all a video on how to write humor months ago, and I still have not delivered, and I can't help but hope that perhaps if I had made that video sooner, then Stephen King would have watched it and learned that you can't shove a joke down the audience's throats. Stephen King's joke read as follows. Why did Donald J. Trump cross the road? To see Haitians eating pets on the other side. Yeah. As you can see, the man does not understand humor. Also, I'm not really sure why he included the J in Donald J. Trump's name, as if we wouldn't know who it was if he just said Donald Trump. Now, I'm not gonna lie, at first I actually considered reconstructing this joke to make it funny, but then I kind of decided that it's been a couple months since I've gotten in trouble, and I kind of want to keep that streak going, so I'm not going to do that, but I do really want to talk about this. Now, if you're sitting here wondering how restructuring that stupid joke could get me in trouble, then we're in the same boat. For me, while I do acknowledge this sad attempt at a joke was not funny at all, it's clearly an attempt to criticize the president for comments made during the election. You know, during one of the debates, there was that whole, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats thing, and I have to say, regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum, you are welcome on this channel, but that was an insane comment to make on live television for a debate.
Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets.
I mean, just thinking about it now, that was bad. I have truly no idea how he survived that at all. Getting back on track, it's really clear that with Stephen King's poor attempt at a joke, he was trying to call that out and does not actually believe that Haitians eat pets, and yet people were calling him out on Threads. I mean, for 2 days on the app, this was the only topic I saw anyone talking about, with some people asking for an apology, other people calling him out, and some people even going as far as to try to cancel Stephen King. The main issue that people had was they felt it was racist for Stephen King to post this, which I honestly don't agree with. And of course, as I always do, because I have zero impulse control, I got myself involved, even though it probably makes the most sense for my writing career to just look the other way because it does not affect me. But I wrote a couple threads kind of talking about how I thought the internet's response was a little too strong, and people actually came to my posts and commented comments that are now deleted, calling me racist for defending Stephen King, which is absolutely absurd. The comment was basically calling me out for being this huge Stephen King fan who will just turn my back away from anything racist he does because I don't care, I'm white, and I just love Stephen King and he can do no wrong in my eyes. I think now is a really good time to note that I am not a Stephen King fan at all. Sure, I read The Shining for my writing and drinking like alcoholic author series, and I did like it, but honestly, just having Stephen King on that series, even though he's now sober, shows like I am not somebody who's just kissing up to Stephen King. I do my own thing. I have no issue with Stephen King, but I've only checked out his one book. It's not like I absolutely worship him. I respect that he's a well-known name, and a lot of people in the horror genre absolutely adore Stephen King, but I am by no means obsessed with Stephen King, and in that video where I kind of talked about Stephen King, I did not mince words when I kind of called him out for different things. You know, I'm not the type of person to just give you a free pass because you're a famous author. That's definitely not how I run this channel, as you all know. In fact, in that video, I acknowledged he's written some questionable things, including that one scene in It. Although I actually think I might have taken that bit out of the video because at that point I was pretty drunk and it was a mess. But it was gonna be in the video, and I'm acknowledging it now. He's written some weird things. That's not the focus of the video, but just know, if you've never read It, just look up that one scene from It and you'll get a description, or don't. Probably don't. It's probably better to do what you want. My point is, I'm not the type of person to blindly defend authors, and Stephen King is certainly no exception. In fact, I'm not filming this video at all to defend Stephen King. I'm actually filming this video to discuss a problem with Threads. The writing and book communities on Threads are extremely toxic, and this whole Stephen King thing is just a great example of that. Honestly, all you have to do right now is go on the Threads app and look up Stephen King's name and you will know exactly what I mean. Now, I'm not going to actually show posts because I find it's really problematic in videos like these when you show posts because people end up going after people and it's just not good, and definitely the opposite of what I want to come from this video. Although in hindsight, I could have just blacked out the names. So for now, for this video, I'm going to just be reading some of these posts I saw on Threads that really highlight what I'm talking about. Excuse me if I stumble a bit here, my handwriting is absolutely abysmal. White people don't get to decide what's racist because Stephen King is your favorite author. 700 likes, 136 comments. Apparently, Stephen King said something racist. In other news, water wet? 350 likes, 100 comments. Keep in mind, these numbers are absolutely insane for an app like Threads. And yeah, there are hundreds and hundreds of threads just like those, and I really want to focus on the engagement they're getting because that's a huge part of this problem. And then on the other side of the spectrum, this thread is also one I wanted to highlight. I feel like Stephen King might have banked enough goodwill and social capital over the last decade of championing democratic ideas for us to give him a bit of a grace for a joke that fell flat. 2,000 likes, 805 comments. You can just imagine what the comments were like on that one. The amount of comments on that post is absolutely staggering, and honestly, I just urge you have to kind of just go through the comments of a post like that because the amount of groupthink is staggering, and that is the big issue I think I want to talk about here. Now, I've actually added this segment of this script here because the original script was based on only my feed, but I realized after looking through Threads that my feed was biased, and I definitely wanted to talk about that too. And I will say the fact that I'm biased because my feed is tailored towards me and what's going to get me tick definitely adds a layer to this problem that I definitely think needs to be discussed. Social media apps are engineered to keep you online as long as physically possible, and one of the ways that apps like Threads keep you online is getting you frustrated about things. I won't lie, people calling Stephen King racist because of his stupid joke made me angry. I started commenting about it, and then people called me racist in the comments, which got me even more angry, and I ended up spending a lot of time on Threads just angrily reading people's responses and reading their hot takes and getting furious over the ridiculous things that people were putting on the internet. After I wrote a response to somebody's absolutely insane take on all this, I realized that my feed was entirely filled with people just bashing on Stephen King, and then I realized I'd fallen for the trap. The Threads algorithm had baited me once again, and I took the bait. After I realized I was doing exactly what the app wanted me to do, I took a step back and realized with the posts defending Stephen King, 90% of the comments were absolutely bashing him, and then the opposite was true for the posts calling him a racist. The Threads algorithm is 100% fueled on people getting frustrated and having arguments in the comments. And if that's not bad enough, what makes this even worse is people who want views on the app and are trying to get more views know that and they use that to their advantage. I noticed that absolutely none of the posts that were getting pushed on the app said something like, oh, I like Stephen King, but I don't like how he mentioned Haitians in this comment because this and that, but I understand it was a mistake, or something like that. There was absolutely no engagement on posts that said stuff like, I think he worded this incorrectly, but I think he meant that. And when you think about it, of course there weren't. That's a normal response. That's not going to get people super frustrated and stay on the app for over an hour ranting. Threads is an app based on hot takes. You are rewarded for saying the most extreme and outlandish thing you can possibly think of. The app basically incentivizes you to be as polarizing as possible. Making things even worse, the algorithm has this way of pushing people with like-minded thoughts together, creating these pockets of groupthink, or what I like to call hive mind mentality. In these pockets of groupthink, there is only one acceptable opinion and no other opinion is welcome. And personally, I feel like when you take this hive mind mentality and you add these hot takes, it leads to a humongous problem. Now, when it comes to Stephen King and this issue, I don't think this is the biggest problem. Yes, I do think it's problematic, but hey, Stephen King is a billionaire and he understands how to handle harassment on the internet. So it's not the worst case scenario, and it's something that Stephen King can handle. The bigger issue is Stephen King is not the only author who's had to deal with this, and frankly, most of the other authors don't have the same resources that he does. In just the past week on Threads, people were attacked for the following: being an author and posting a negative book review, being suspected of being a problematic author behind a pen name, and finally, an author received death threats after saying they killed a dog in their book and they don't understand why people treat their dogs like children. For the record, that thread the dog woman posted was very stupid, and frankly, she needs to learn how to listen to beta readers. However, death threats, come on, that is never acceptable, especially for somebody saying they killed a dog in a book. Like, come on. If you're interested, I was actually considering doing a full video on the whole dog thread thing, but I didn't really want to do it because so many people were actually going after this author and attacking them on other posts and other platforms, and I just didn't want to feed into that. But I could find a way to just like hide the posts and just do it in a way where we talk about it, and hopefully I trust you guys enough to not go after somebody. I think that's not something we do in this community. But that's kind of why I haven't done that yet. But let me know in the comments if that's something you would like to see. But still, this was absolutely crazy. And yes, the thread was stupid. But this was not an equal and fair reaction to what was said in that post. I mean, for the record, her last post, which is on a completely different topic, has 30 likes and 400 comments. And you can probably imagine those comments are awful. And what I really want to highlight about that situation is if you want to call somebody out for something they posted, go for it. But a lot of people are going around and trying to end this woman's career because of something they posted on Threads. And that's just so extreme. Like, if you don't want to follow this person or read their books, that's fine. But you don't have to try to actively cancel them before their career begins. And what's kind of going on in the situation is because so many other people are also doing it, that groupthink starts to kick in where it's like, oh, well, if these 3 people are doing it, then it's okay to end this person's career and make sure no one ever reads their book. Like, too far. Like, look, an example of a proper response to something like that would be like, hey, you should listen to your beta readers and also acknowledge that readers want a trigger warning if a pet dies in a book. Not, hey, I hope you die, get off the internet, I hope your career ends because you are a terrible person, blah, blah, blah. Like, come on. And again, going back to the root of the problem, the big issue with Threads is a response like, hey, you should listen to your beta readers, this is why you shouldn't do this, is not going to get a ton of views. What is going to get a ton of views is, hey, we should cancel this person's career and then put them on the DNF list, this, that. And then that just escalates and people say like, oh, it's okay to hate on this author. Who's this author? So I unfollow them on everything and tell everyone I know to get rid of this person so their book never gets a sale. And then it gets to the point where people think it's okay to send a death threat just because everybody on Threads is just escalating and escalating. And you see it happen multiple times. I'm not saying that everybody in this groupthink circle is sending death threats. It's only 1 or 2, but it's there. You can see it on social media. It's right in front of us because of everybody in this community is just completely overreacting because it just seems like when you're in that group, that's what everyone's doing. So it's the right thing to do. In fact, I think a better example of the problems with this groupthink is this situation where readers were trying to expose authors behind the pen names to try to make sure they weren't one of the authors that they felt were problematic. It's obviously not okay to try to dox the real author behind a pen name, but because a bunch of people in this group were trying to justify it, saying like, oh, but we're just trying to make sure we're not supporting problematic authors and stuff like this, everybody in this group was actually actively supporting the idea of trying to find out who was the author behind this pen name and like throwing out accusations, which it's clearly not okay, but people were justifying it because like, oh, well, the majority of the people are doing this, so if we're in the majority, then it's okay. Like this groupthink, this concept where like everybody just goes to this extreme and then everybody is trying to it's just so problematic. Like, I hate this stupid saying, but it's like when your mom says, well, if your friend jumps off a building, would you jump off too? This combination of groupthink and polarizing takes just leads people to say the most extreme things and then have everybody agree with them because they're getting more likes and therefore that's the right take. And then the comments just completely devolve into complete madness. And you just see it with Threads over and over and over again. I mean, with the whole author review thing, which I think was actually the craziest of all these situations, authors were actually going in and deleting their Goodreads because people on Threads were talking about how they could track down what an author said about previous books, and therefore they'll know that they're not an ally to the book community or whatever that means. Like, I kid you not, these hive mind groups of people on Threads were attacking authors for reviewing books. And then I'm getting a little off track here, but going back to the dog girl, people were actually review bombing her book. And then since her book is not out yet, they were actually review bombing the wrong girl with the same name as hers, attacking the whole dog situation. And this person wasn't even involved. And it just shows another example of A, how problematic this groupthink is, that a bunch of people were coming together and thinking it's okay to review bomb a book. But then also showing how problematic it is, where like the wrong author's career was hurt, all because these people on Threads did not do their homework. And first of all, it would not have been okay to review bomb the actual girl who wrote the thread to begin with. You can't review bomb just because you don't like something somebody writes out on social media. Like, if you didn't read the book, you can't review bomb them. And it's just like this whole thing where you have these groups of people who just, well, since everybody else in the group thinks it's okay to review bomb or to attack somebody, then it's okay. And it's just such an issue with this book community. I mean, you see it when people review bomb things for saying something about their favorite book or this or that. It's just so many examples. And as all this stuff happened in the past week, this is 1 week on this app. And I'm getting frustrated here and I'm starting to ramble, but I'm realizing now as I'm making this video that perhaps my biggest takeaway in this video is for the past few days, every single time I've logged onto Threads, I've come off more miserable than I was when I logged on. And I do want to note really quickly that I do think there is a lot of good on this app. I mean, it warms my heart every single time I see a post get a ton of likes and it's an author saying, yay, I just wrote my first book, or like sharing a big milestone. And I think it's really helpful for authors to kind of connect with readers. But there's just so much problematic drama that happens on the app. And it's just true that the app is kind of built on these hot takes. I mean, you ask anybody who's trying to get views on the app, and what they do is try to make the most controversial posts they possibly can. I mean, not for nothing, the situation with the girl who wrote the thing about killing off dogs, she probably made that post with the intention of it getting popular on Threads. Now it kind of backfired in the sense where, yeah, it got a lot of views, but views don't equal sales. But it just shows like that this app is built on controversy and dividing people and really having these polarizing arguments that just are not good for the community or really anyone's mental health on the app. I can't imagine anyone is going on this app and feeling great after arguing for an hour about how Stephen King is racist and how whether or not we should dox this author and accuse. Oh, that's the other thing I haven't even talked about in this video. There's like groups of people who are accusing authors of being AI. Like it's insane. Like with no merit at all. They just blindly accuse authors of being AI. It's just. There's just so much going on the app that's problematic. It's because of this groupthink and this polarization. And I guess my takeaway from this video, beyond the fact that this app is clearly not good for my mental health, that is becoming very clear as I talk to the camera. But also, the other issue, and I think the big takeaway you need to have from this video is just being aware that this stuff is going on. Because I think, for me, it really helped like understanding, okay, this even if it's just not rage bait, this is the algorithm trying to get me angry or stuff like this. And I think that's really important to understand, like both for your mental health and also so you don't make a mistake on social media. So you don't make a mistake like the person posting about killing dogs where you just try to get engagement only to realize it's not going to help you. Having made this video, I'm going to try to do better at not getting involved in all this Threads drama. And my final takeaway that I kind of lost for a second is try to avoid groupthink when it comes to social media. I think it's so important to really understand these algorithms and what they're trying to do so we really understand why things are so decisive these days. And most importantly, at least in my opinion, I think it's essential when we see something going on, like a debate going on in social media, that we actually take the time to form our own opinion instead of just reading what everyone is saying and try to agree with the popular group. Because as we see in these situations with groupthink on Threads, especially considering that hot takes get so much attention, that a lot of times these groups of people who seem to be in the majority are not necessarily in the right. Anyway, that's my take on all this. I definitely went off the rails at certain points, kind of deviating away from my script before trying to come back to it. I'd love to know your thoughts on what I had to say in this video. If you agree with things I said, if you think maybe I was off on different things, I'd love to discuss it in the comments below, as always. I know this is a bit of a negative video compared to my normal content, but I thought it was really important to talk about. Still, I do want to say I am starting a writing challenge tomorrow, so that should be really fun. Also, so you can avoid your jokes falling flat like Stephen King, I am going to be making a video on how to write humor soon. I know I've been promising that for a while, but frankly, the current script I had just didn't seem funny enough. And I feel like if you're going to be writing a script about writing humor, it has to be funny. I mean, that's been my biggest problem with so many videos on the topic on YouTube. They're just not funny. So I'm going to be working on that script again. I think that video will be out soon. When? Who knows? But just know that video is still coming. Anyway, subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss that, and also like this video while you're at it. Thank you so much for watching me ramble on in this video. I appreciate all your support. Good luck in your writing journey.